Hi Snow Yolk friends, this is Sahar Shunier, human interest photojournalist and founding spokesperson of Stop Non-Consensual Experiments and All World Citizens. I'm trying not to re-drop this tablet. I already just cracked the screen on a immediately preceding try to do this video. So let's see here. Okay, it's now 5:10 p.m. in Eastern Standard Time, Saturday, July 25th, 2020. And I'm going to go over some highlighted videos of evidence because there's been a lot of corrupt parties involved in this highly shielded network of organized sexual predators and extortioners that include government representatives, some of them quite highly placed and also dangerously placed in law enforcement apparently. I've had to really be gradually gathering and sharing evidence as I go along publicly for over 13 years now. Regularly, I've been doing this since the middle of 2007. By then, my YouTube channel is where I started getting awards for, what was the category? It was news and politics in Canada, often in the top 3, sometimes the number 1. And so is when I started sharing these video files regularly. I was in Toronto, Ontario, Canada in 2007, and that was during a multiple of 6 birthday year surge. I had turned 36 in 2007. So coming into, during, and coming out of that year, 2006, all through 2007, and into 2008, were life-threatening organized predatory activities against me, which has been the pattern I've experienced lifelong, literally my entire life, including age 6, age 12, age 18, and so on. And now I'm dealing with that. I'm now 49, and so they started this 2018, another life-threatening surge. They've been worse than ever before, though. The previous 2 times were almost identical. This time, it seems like at least some of them might be trying to murder me. I know at one point there was a contract on my life, counter surveillance that I started actively doing. There was organized predators were captured, apparently communicating. Dr. 5 needed someone killed. I know more than 5 doctors. I mean, they're not secret. I've referenced all of them in, you know, for safety's sake, over as they've come up. But I know more than 5 doctors in this semi-secret society of international doctors that basically are highly shielded, and they're carrying out these non-consensual human experimentation contracts, often seems like under a black budget, appropriated funds like through U.S. Senate Appropriations Committee and so forth. So clearly, you know, I'm just a civilian. I need real legitimate intervention, but I will say I think there is some to be found, and this is a reason I'm coming publicly to ask for help, because I've realized that my communications have been a lot more hacked into and routed than I would have imagined. So I think I have learned that at least some of the times those people are really in the places you're trying to reach, because I've gone to try to file a police report more than once, and clearly they knew I was coming, and they had one of their people, you know, basically there to intercept me, to mock me, discourage me, basically threaten me, like, oh, if you need help, we'll take you to the mental hospital, you know? So no, when I photographed somebody who was apparently, you know, covered up his face from head to toe, his hands, everything, it wasn't that cold, and there was no Halloween party or masquerade party around that anybody heard of or could see or anything, and he's walking, approaching me as a car is coming with no license plate and deeply black tinted windows all the way around, and so it looks like a setup for abduction and not for the first time. And I have a video file where you can hear them planning to abduct me at gunpoint. No, I'm not paranoid to ask the police to intervene, and it's not appropriate to respond that, oh, well, the only help we'll give you is to drive you to the mental hospital. I have since learned, because this was really all a shock to me, that this is their mode of operation. This is why they're so cocky, because they have these positions, and apparently, you know, you don't have to be a journalist for this to happen to you. They've got this human enslavement and human trafficking activities down of how to, you know, make sure they're highly shielded, because that's their tactics that they're used to doing. Is they're on the lookout for you. They have files on you that they're not allowed legally to be communicating in that way about. The way they're hijacking, unlawfully surveilling and hijacking and routing your communications is also clearly illegal. For people they have no legitimate basis to be, quote, investigating or so forth. They're engaging in criminal activities. They're targeting innocent people. Oh, they want to enslave and traffic them. So, you know, they loop you round and around. They stalk you. They harass you, even poison you. That's what I'm most concerned about right now. But as it is, I have so many files now, so I'm having trouble. At first I thought it was maybe these people, you know, don't think I have enough evidence or something. Then I realized, oh no, it's a much worse problem than that. But now I'm needing to really try to get that evidence summarized for, assuming I can find some legitimate intervention. I know they don't have like the time to sift through years and years of the footage I've been posting. So I'm going to, like I said, it's hard, especially for me. I'm going to be skipping a lot of stuff. But I pulled up some files that I think would be helpful to go over. And I'm going to just go ahead and do that now. I'm going to flip the camera around. And as you can see, I am healing. I'm not completely healed, but I'm healing from the chemical assault. You know, I'm still puffed out also, and I still have the, you know, the irritation the chemical assault caused to my skin and all. And I'm still having, you know, some symptoms, especially noticeable under my most sensitive eye that has the eye surgery. That was one of the first instances that was probably non-consensual human experimentation by this network. When I was 6 years old, they did a corneal transplant. It caused that white scar tissue. It looks like a reflection of light, but it never goes away because it's actually scar tissue. Someone suggested to me what they might have really been doing is it might be more appropriate to call it an implant than a transplant. But in any event, I won't be able to know for sure until things get to where I can actually trust an ophthalmologist to you know, provide an objective findings as to that. I do know that there's been times that I've been scheduled for an MRI that Dr. John Anthony Sabarbro specifically called ahead to ask certain strange requests when he should have had nothing to do with it. Because literally at that point, he had already denied MRIs coming through what he officially oversaw. This was not through any MRIs that he had anything to do with his budget, and he was still calling to request that things not be done. So like he was trying to keep them from seeing something that would show up in the MRI and might have to do with that eye surgery. You know, for example, to not use the contrast they would normally use, etc., which would help to show some things that otherwise might not show, right? So anyway, I'm going to flip this camera around and we'll just review some files, and if anybody has any questions, if you can please add them into the comment thread, I'll try to respond to them as soon as possible, even live. So I did not give any friends a heads up that I was going to do this, so I don't know how many people will gather right now, but so if it's after the video is complete, then I also check at least once a day, and I'll do my best to respond immediately. Okay, thank you and God bless you. Let me turn this camera lens around, and bear with me. Let me just kind of walk over here and put this here. Okay, let's see here. This is not to be morbid, but in case, you know, they try again to disappear me, I have to be realistic, because that's been a habit of theirs, not just like a one-time thing. You know, under color of authority, when I go to ask for help again, then I need to make sure that I've gotten, you know, evidence up. So, okay, let's see. I had this pulled up. Unfortunately, it already closed the window because 3 of the video files I want to go over are here in Facebook. But let me just go to the ones that are more ready to click into to help be more time efficient first, and we'll see if we even, if by then we're going to go over any of the Facebook ones in this file or not. Okay, so let's see here. I'm so sorry that I literally just cracked the screen in my when I started a little bit earlier, and then I realized I have to check if everything was still working, which it seems to be, except for the cracked screen. So, okay, so this is the file in the video playlist to the attention of the U.S. Senate Judiciary Committee called Urgent Attempted Setups Continuing in Alabama. These are all pretty short files, so that should help, and because I might need an advocate to be calling the New York City Public Advocate's Office, if you don't hear from me soon, when I try to go to the police again to try to get help, to get the organized predators to stop these life-threatening activities against me. So here was a meeting where the people believed but not known to be my parents were involved. What had happened is somebody called me on my phone to leave a message, and apparently their phone kept recording after they either thought it had hung up, disconnected, or they meant to leave the line open. I'm really not sure which. So in any event, it turned out to be an organized predators meeting when they were planning to harm me and frame me. And in this particular case, specifically by framing me. Now, also my voice in the narration leading up to it, you can tell I was already being drugged then. This was 2014, July. So a flare-up from, multiple 6 birthday year surge, one surge ago, 6 years ago, almost exactly. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I didn't realize almost exactly. These people have been very, very repetitive. That's apparently part of their tactics as well, from brainwashing, programming, satanic rituals, etc. Okay. So this is an occasion during which the organized predators can be heard planning to terrorize me out of the office. It can be heard in my voice that I was already being drugged during production of this July 2014 file. So Dr. Lockman, short for Latchman, saying, that's the person believed but not known to be my mother, a government contracted neuropsychiatrist specializing in behavior modification. We're back to square one with her nonsense. So I'll point to the stuff as best as I can while we can hear them saying it. And then, she was complaining that, she, being me, is the she they're apparently referring to, opens everything to ventilate. So I didn't realize yet, but apparently they were already drugging me that way and poisoning me that way with neurotoxic inhalants. So they really wanted to make sure they were concentrated. They did not, I think that's why all the resentment that I was opening the window so they couldn't, get the predictable concentration that they were seeking. And somebody else said, you let her drive. When I first heard that, because I have no idea who that person is, and I've always been a responsible driver, I thought they were being, supremacist and what have you. I thought that was the primary reason for that. I mean, now it's clearly a supremacist meeting, and that's part of the reason they have this attitude, I should, they should just do X, Y, Z to me, to get me under control. But they're treating me like property, so not like a human with human rights. I've heard them laugh about the idea that I think I should have human rights, or that I have them inherently. And they've been doing everything they can to try to frame me of rights, deprive me of rights. But in any event, you let her drive. I realized since that they might have been actually worried on some level, again, not caring kind of worried, but as far as not wanting your property, what's the word I'm looking for? It's like if you have $100, you don't want the $100 just to end up crashed into the river and you can't retrieve it, right? So, so you let her drive, knowing, since they knew that I was being poisoned through my breathing environment, that they were poisoning that with neurotoxic inhalants as part of their efforts to frame me, then they might have been concerned that there I was driving in their small town, right? So I don't know. And then Dr. Lockman said, we haven't been able to get her back. And then another participant in the meeting said, tell her that the office has mice. And then cackling is heard. Dr. McIntyre, the person believed to be my stepfather, he was also a government contracted psychiatrist. He specialized in hypnosis and neuro-linguistic programming. But he's deceased now, and he said mice and cockroaches. And then another party, I labeled them Y, said yes, a plague. And then Dr. Lockman said, what do you think we should do? Right now she's scared. And then Y said, someone should make her get that chart. So I made a note that I don't know if their reference to making me get that chart was to them planning to get me framed via false diagnosis, thus manufacturing a chart on me that would end all hope that they have not yet destroyed of ever being able to properly compete for employment and more, or if they were trying to set me up as stealing a chart from the office which contains classified information. So, because it's different from like a file where, I've interviewed people and they're friendly witnesses, as they say, right? Not hostile witnesses or so. And so they will, repeat things if you need them to. They will speak up, for the microphone, position it just so, etc. These files, when you're having to counter-surveil organized criminals and hope to catch them up to something in them planning to abduct you and frame you and poison you and so forth, you get one, you either can hear them or you can't. So I had made a note, if anybody can hear more, to please add to the comments, because I transcribed the highlights that I was readily able to hear and transcribe. Okay, so let's go for it from here. 2 minutes 35 seconds. And sounded like right at the beginning there she said, you hear that shit? Sorry for the language, but this is evidence. So I'm trying to be, accurate. Okay. And I will say, I do see these interesting waves of light bouncing around, and they're probably not random or a mere coincidence or so, and they seem to be disproportionate among others, people being, myself and others being similarly targeted neurologically. And I've seen a research paper called Visual Responses of Ganglion Cells. Those are cells in the human eye and the retina specifically. And it's a neuroscience research, and they are talking about certain combinations of waves of light having certain neurological effects. So I do suspect that's what this is about. I did ask my stepfather about it when he was alive, And I could tell, you get to know people, whether they're really your parents or they've been lying to you since you were 6 years old, because I don't remember anything except for 2 very brief events, less than 1 hour each, from before I was 6 years old. And I do remember that at least from then, 6 years old, they were doing these things already to me. So I was putting the puzzle pieces together, and not too proud to say that I only fairly recently started, getting a significant critical mass of the puzzle together and realized, oh, this is why they're behaving this way. They're because they actually usually were just neglectful, in the relative scheme of things. Like, I pretty much raised myself. So, and I wasn't I was never really tempted to do bad things. So I really was not getting into trouble. I was doing well in school. I was actually driving myself to and from school from a very young age. That's one of the reasons this ticked me off, because I was in Mexico. I was not older than 12, and my parents gave me a Volkswagen Rabbit to drive myself to and from school in the crazy traffic there, because they did not want to be bothered to either hire like an adult professional driver to get us to school, or us being my step siblings and me, or to drive themselves, right, to get me and or my step siblings to school. So they thought I was plenty responsible to drive from before I was even into my teens, literally, from 11 to 12 years old, and to and from school on a regular basis in the crazy driving in the mountains of Guadalajara, a very highly populated metropolis in Mexico, in the mountains with no guardrails and the whole thing. And then, now I'm in my 40s and I still have an excellent driving record, and they're busy trying to, having these discussions, trying to frame me, having, strangers come out like, you let her drive, blah, 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 blah. But mind you, maybe they were actually, I don't know why they said that exactly. It might be the issue also of them knowing that I was being drugged with neurotoxins, and so it ran a higher risk that I would just end up, in an accident, and then they would lose their property, right? The value of their property. But anyway, let's see here. I'm going to close these windows because I have very low storage space on here, so I'm going to close them out as I go along. Okay. So let's see what's up next here. Trauma deliberately inflicted and perception attemptedly undermined. I wanted to start from 836. This must have refreshed. So I just have to put it back to 836. There is a lot more to hear in some of these files in particular, including this one. But I'm just trying to go over some highlights of highlighted files for this current live file. Okay, so I'd made a note 836 would be an efficient place to start in from here. Let's see. I just passed it. Okay, 836. I don't think this one is particularly difficult for me emotionally, so yeah, I did not try to transcribe anything in there as of yet. But I guess I'll try to tell you real quick what had happened, context. So I think I mentioned that my parents weren't really that actively abusive much of the time. They were usually just, not bothering with me, right? So they left me to my own devices, including to drive myself to and from school by age 11 to 12, literally, in Mexico, Guadalajara, Jalisco, Mexico. Crazy, dangerous driving. I realize now that was highly irresponsible parenting. But really, I didn't mind because, again, I was free to drive myself, and actually I could drive myself to the mall, what have you, if I wanted to as well. They weren't, in my face about anything like that in that kind of way. But especially when it was just us, usually they just could not be bothered with me. But the strange thing was, in certain company, and these were all interesting people, right? Intelligence community people, military intelligence typically, both the overlap, not just military or intelligence, but specifically military intelligence people. When they would come over to, say dinner or so, then suddenly my parents would be theatrically abusive, which is like the opposite of what makes sense under more normal circumstances, right? Like I knew friends that they might have a parent or parents that are abusive or so, but even me being a child, when I went over to their house, you know, they might have confided in me and so forth, and there could be telltale signs because I was always very perceptive. My teachers actually used to write that a lot, and you know, like, oh, she's very perceptive, you know, like that. So in notes about me from school. So I would realize that they have a parent or parents that are abusive, and even when I was just a child and I went over to their house, their parent or parents would be trying to not show that, right? The normal thing would be to hide the abusiveness in company. Even if that company is not somebody they have to really be afraid of, because that company is just another child, they would tend to hide the overtly abusive behavior. My parents were doing the opposite. They get these military intelligence people coming over to have something to eat with us or so, and apparently it was really primarily about something else, because my parents then would become, you know, who normally ignored me, would then become theatrically abusive, looking for any, you know, excuse to abuse me to an extreme in front of said company. So, you know, this is just another puzzle piece now that makes a lot more sense since I've realized that it's psychological operations groups. This is how they go about trying to break someone down to get them under mind control, as they call it, you know, brainwashing and programming. It's done particularly badly through semi-cloistered to cloistered environments that are participating, including on military bases and cult compounds and academic campuses. I'm very concerned about it. You know, it's connected to the epidemic of sexual assaults and other life-endangering assaults that have resulted in people dying, and authorities not doing proper investigations, right? Because again, these people are highly shielded, and on some level they're actually being assigned and promised that shielding, apparently. So this is not any kind of society that is acceptable to live in. And so apparently people were also putting orders in. So I didn't realize they were so depraved, and they have these like overlapping organized criminal activities for profit. And so my mother has a younger half-sister, and that half-sister said she wanted to see her husband rape me with a knife. And I literally was in the single digits at the time, not older than about 9 years old. It was like a few years, not very much before, but when I say not very much, not more than like 4 years before. I think it was about 3 years before. So when I was about 9 years old, before I went to Guadalajara, Jalisco, Mexico, because basically I was there most of the time. My mother and stepfather were there for medical school. So my aunt had said she wanted to see her husband, who was a known child molester. That's how he had started with her. She started living with him and sexually when she was only, what I'm saying is he wasn't like an overt guardian. He was overtly her live-in boyfriend when she was only like 12 to 13. And he was at least about 10 years older than her in his 20s. So, and a very similar pattern with my person to believe to be my biological father and my biological mother. My father, quote, started dating my mother for this network when she was only 12 and he was 21. So these are some of the patterns I have definitely observed this organized predatory network to be engaged in. Apparently it has to do, in addition to satanic rituals, like really extra targeting people at 6, a lot of this targeting child brides and so forth at age 12. And if they're not legally allowed to marry them, they start, quote, dating them, whatever, age 12. And then, as soon as they can marry them, the next multiple of 6, like age 18, so forth, they do that. And these significant age differences and this controlling imbalance in the relationship and so forth, because these are really assigned handlers for this network rather than legitimate, anybody who's even attempting a legitimate romantic partnership. So I'm going to go from here.
Up and down that you weren't going to let her know anything about me and where I am, have anything to do with her, etc. And you lied. I did not lie. That is a lie. She has no idea where you are. At least she never got it from me. Go check my messages again. I can tell you right now, she never got that information from me. Yes, I told you up and down. I protect you with my life. So she's the worst thing on the face of the earth, but I still want something to do with her. You know, I would go either somewhere else. If she kills me, she kills me. I'd be hard pressed to find another mother that would have anything to do with, much less I am the worst mother on earth. Somebody who makes a threat like that against their child. I'm telling her about your whereabouts and you're not addressing that? Did you lie again? I mean, where did you get that from, Sahar? You're assaulting me, abusing me for something I didn't do? And you're not even addressing it, you just glaze over it?
Okay, so I was very confused about a lot of the tactics she was engaging in this exchange. So it was also, in a way, very significantly helpful when I posted it. I received a lot of feedback from people who have experienced similar behaviors and were farther ahead than I was, because I didn't even know the term. I'm kind of embarrassed to say about that too, but narcissistic personality disorder, in spiritual terms called the Jezebel spirit, and demonic spirit of Jezebel. And they basically talk about narcissism, overlapping sociopathy, and I've even started learning about, further along, like this malignant dark triad with certain Machiavellian traits. And that's definitely, sorry to say, but as a fact, everybody who spent any significant time with him knew that was the primary trait that was very evident of the person believed to be my stepfather, was extremely Machiavellian. I mean, I literally never met anybody else in my life who was like textbook definition of Machiavellian. And so yeah, and they do these things, they immediately accuse you of basically, they're projecting onto you and accusing you and trying to make you out to be, doing the things that they're doing to you, both privately and publicly, so, and that might well have to do with some of the rationale behind all of the relentless attempts to frame me. But it's really been livelihood threatening and life threatening. I need legitimate government intervention, I realized, to make it stop, because I thought it was just like a household abuse matter. But I've come to realize it's a much larger, internationally networked matter. So, one person can't get that to stop, especially, if local law enforcement, wherever you try to settle, is going to be pocketed, so that absolutely is necessitating legitimate government intervention. And I did hear that currently NYPD is supposed to be specifically investigating this type of problem now. I was told that when I called 311. I didn't call 911, I called 311, and they said, oh, they're supposed to be investigating that type of problem right now. So, but, they did understand that I'm feeling the need to be careful about who I try to speak with, because multiple times now I've tried to get help, including from police, and there were just attempts to frame me and abduct me under color of authority, as I mentioned at the beginning, like saying, oh, well, if you need help, we'll take you to a mental hospital for that kind of help. No, I actually need help against, the fact that leaving the household is not enough, because this is actually part of grooming for a larger human enslavement and trafficking network of abusers. And it's life-threatening now for me, and I really need it to be made to stop. So, okay, let's, I realize that maybe I should not have closed out the file, because if I find that I'm just too slow, because, they sleep deprive me and stuff like that, I'm trying to get through this efficiently, I might have to try this again, right, and replace this. So let me not exit that, maybe just move to the next one. Okay, let's see.
It is now 3:50.
Oh gosh, it's a good thing I wrote down where they start. because, let's see, I guess it wouldn't, my handwriting is really messy, but I guess it wouldn't hurt to show this momentarily. So, okay, we went through that one starting 2:35, that one starting 8:36. This one here, starting 5:01, Dr. Lockman admits feeling coerced to press false allegations against me. Okay, so let's see, 5:01, let's get over there. Oh, and I did manage to transcribe in this, I'm pretty sure. The main section. I have to be careful because the screen just cracked. It feels like it might be glass. So let's see. Okay, 5:01. Just getting up to 5:01. This transcription, the transcription starts from 5:05. That's there. Okay, almost there. There we go. So you see, you can tell she's not in touch with like normal standards of reality that like people would have that are not engaged in these kinds of mentality that you should just, you know, accept these frame-ups they're, you know, putting around you and stuff to do you in, right? To make sure you can never be free from them and all. So that's why instead of saying, you know, like, you crazy psycho abusive person, just stop, get away from me, whatever, which would only make things worse and more dangerous for me, especially since, you know, she had all these people around that would say, oh, look, she's, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? Agitated and not under control, and she needs to be sedated or this, that, whatever. I was just trying to be very, you know, calm and be like, oh, I see, you know, and I would just have to gather the evidence and hope that, you know, to be able to get some legitimate help from somebody who really can do something to make these activities stop. Because I've learned that it's not me. No matter how many times I say, no, please stop. You know, I've earned my life in addition to the innate human rights that we're born with. I've earned the right to be able to compete for legitimate employment, to be able to compete for legitimate housing, etc. over and over and over again. Stop doing everything you can to manufacture things against me to take away all my hopes of even being able to ever be free from abuse, because it was already enough that you abused me in the household. I've saved up over and over again to get free from this household. I need to not be stalked and poisoned by all these other minions that will help you extend these abuses, because it turns out to be a whole organized human enslavement and trafficking network. You know, they laugh. Oh, Sahar thinks she has rights. You know, Sahar thinks she's going to work a government job. Shit, and this and that. I heard her say exactly that. I'd already worked a government job since I was much younger, and I did so well impressing the people at the Witness Aid Services Unit at the New York District Attorney's Office that I was the first person they told me that they had come back for a back-to-back internship, because they normally would just have the person do one internship and immediately rotate to the next person and so forth, since they only have one intern per academic semester. But they were so happy with how much I was helping them there and everything. They had me come for the subsequent semester, so I ended up spending my entire senior academic year there. And the supervisor wrote me a nice recommendation, because I was thinking to go, you know, to become a lawyer and graduate from law school and everything. I didn't realize these people were going to do all the things that they did to drive me out of being able to do that, including literally making me homeless. Like, fortunately, I've managed through the grace of God and some quick thinking and all, and having always some money on reserve, you know, that that I kept these people from being able to get their hands on, to not actually end up having to be on the street overnight. But they, you know, in the middle of me trying to study for law school and so forth, you know, including finals and everything, they literally would all of a sudden, you know, like pull my housing, and you know, because I literally, like, I was in a place, I was trying to remember where it was, because the place itself was fine. It was in Midtown West, which is the neighborhood I'm in now, but I'm just blanking out on where it is, and I don't even know if they're still operating. I think they probably are, but they were basically, it was like an overflow dormitory, so it wasn't affiliated with one particular school, but they were, I think the word is charter. They had a charter. I think maybe they were like under a nonprofit organization probably, and or a government subsidization or something, because basically they could only have people there that were enrolled as a student, right? And so, but, and they took credit cards, and you could basically, you know, you don't have to pay for the whole semester. You could pay by the week, what have you. Well, my parents were doing stuff. I'd all of a sudden find out, like, oh, you know, the credit card didn't work, and you know, so sorry, but, like, you know, technically you don't have housing right now, like you can't, you know, get into sleep, you know, for the night, whatever. And you know, there would just be this constant you know, distress and chaos and stuff that you just can't, with the kind of level of intellectual demands and everything, and psychological demands and what have you, for that kind of ultra competitive, even cutthroat environment. You can't be expected, you know, I realize it now, you know, to compete through all of that and successfully complete all of that with you know, in New York City as a woman alone, especially, suddenly terrorizing you more than once, that all of a sudden, you know, you have to scramble for some place to sleep for the night. It was really something. But anyway, so let's see, let's go to the next file. So yeah, so my mother, you know, making that comment, Sahara thinks she's going to work a government job, shit, and all this. Now, mind you, she said it in an alternate personality, you know, like the kind of personality that was talking to me. And she actually went through more than one personality in that file, trauma deliberately inflicted and perception attemptedly undermined since childhood. So if I sound kind of dispassionate or something, like, this is why I'm not angry with her, but I realize there's there's actually more than one personality in her that is extremely malicious to me. And understanding better how it even happened, I blame this network for having done that to her. That's part of how they get control over people, apparently. So they traumatized her from a very young age to where they fractured her, and you know, programmed in these, and I would say, I believe, spiritually possessed in, not just programmed in, but more tangibly on a psychological categories, you know, programmed in additional personalities, and they just don't have any, you know, and that's what I'm looking for. And certainly no empathy, no conscience, you know, nothing there's just nothing there to like, nothing that you can say, please stop this, and expect them to stop. It would only encourage them, because they enjoy, you know, the controlling, the power tripping, the whole thing. So yeah, and you know, there've been so many attempts to frame me and all, and I've been able to avoid them from succeeding thus far, except, you know, I mean, as far as an overt kind of thing, what they were trying to do overtly, but they've still, you know, by them doing that, they prevented me, like, you know, when I had my business school reunion 5 years ago, I was so excited because I got in touch with my alma mater's career center, and actually I went there, NYU, for undergraduate and graduate school. I graduated, and I got in touch with both the career services, and there was somebody who was going to help me from both to compete for legitimate employment. And these crazy things were being done, like when I had an in-person appointment, more than once, literally, somebody would make the fire alarm go off. And I asked, like, how often does the fire alarm go off? They're like, oh, normally, you know, like very rarely. And meanwhile, you know, it was, you know, back to back, one appointment after the other. When I have an appointment, somebody made the fire alarm go off to totally derail any chance for a meaningful, you know, sit down with the career counselor and so forth. You know, and that's relatively minor, but you know, it adds up because you know, you have this network. I realize they're literally stalking all the time, and that's apparently the most dangerous aspect acutely, is that part of what they've been doing it for is to keep dosing me with neurotoxins. They do it now at least 3 times a day. I've identified they're doing it about 8:30 in the morning, 6 hours later about 2:30 in the afternoon, 4 hours later about 6:30 in the evening. So they want to make sure I can't function professionally or personally, you know. But I guess it does show that whoever's pulling those strings is not looking immediately to murder me anyway. They're either looking to cumulatively murder me with the poisons, hoping to get away with it because it's a gradual process, and just make me seem like I got sick and died or something, or they're, you know, they're looking to, I think the most likely thing, they're seeking to get me to where I have to be taken away in an ambulance or, you know, rushed to the emergency room, and so they can use their pocketed people to abduct under color of authority there, you know. That would be right in line with their mode of operation and something they've already tried. So anyways, let's see. We're at setups need to stop to let me relocate and live peacefully. Let's go from 1348. I'm sure it looks like all of these pages, I had them in the right spot, right? But they all, for whatever, oh, you know, now this might has something to do with when I accidentally dropped the tablet. So let's see, 1348. there we go. 48. They were talking about some kind of law enforcement pair of men or pseudo law enforcement pair of men. They were either like local police there, but I think, as best as I can remember, I'm not 100% on this, that they were actually in sheriff's uniforms and sheriff's vehicles. So, and I think that's at county levels. That would be Marshall County Sheriff's Office, rather than Guntersville Police Department. And it doesn't, I mean, they did not do anything to me. So I don't even know that they were involved in what my mother and stepfather were saying, but my mother and stepfather were doing their best to make me feel like those law enforcement men or psychological operations group actors allowed to dress as law enforcement, because I've learned that psychological operations group actors have been in practice allowed to dress as law enforcement. Now that probably is illegal, but I'm talking about in practice, regardless of the legality. And so they were getting across to me that those men were about to arrest me, you know. So anyway, let's hear. Okay, so this kind of helps you to understand the extent to which they push and push to manufacture stuff literally out of, I think the expression is whole cloth. So literally I was in the parking lot and we had just finished eating dinner, and now it was probably a setup that they'd arranged for it to be a very late night at the office, and so it was a very late dinner, and the only place that was still available was Applebee's. And they do serve alcohol, but I don't drink alcohol. Everybody who knows me knows that. And I'd had no alcohol to drink, and I certainly would never even conceive of drinking and driving, not in a trillion gazillion actual years. So I'm the responsible one that will like drive other people, you know, if they've had something to drink or so, and everybody who knows me knows that too. So, you know, and it's not just now that I'm almost 50 years old. I was always the one also like in college and everything. So this is just, they're way, like, they were really, really, really stretching to try to frame me up. And so all I'd had to drink was literally this stuff. I wasn't that familiar with it actually, but it was called vitamin water. It was from the fountain. And, you know, now I'm a little bit more familiar with it. It's just like flavored water, maybe has some vitamins put in there or whatever, but it's not alcoholic. And so they, you know, I stopped, but the weather was such that there was condensation on the inside of my windshield. And I was making sure that before I drove out of the relatively safe parking lot spot, right, that I was wiping off the condensation from inside the windshield so that I could actually see before driving out into traffic. And they were giving me, my stepfather kept calling me like, oh no, you have to drive now, you have to drive now. You know, what are you doing? You're wasting time, you have to drive now. So now I realize, like, at least from their part, for their part, they were trying to set me up, and they wanted me to drive before I could see, and then I surely would have, you know, like, looked like I was driving drunk, right? And, you know, and maybe even would have, you know, who knows what could have happened? Like, somebody could have gotten injured, and I had a passenger in the car with me that I was driving, actually, because he had something to drink. So, I mean, this is, it just helps to understand, I guess, to show their level of sociopathy in these, you know, plans that they've been executing to try to frame me as well. They don't give a damn who might get hurt. They surely don't give a damn if I might get physically hurt. They don't give a damn if anybody else gets physically hurt. They just want to get that done. So it's very hard for me to wrap my mind around, but there's no, you know, denying it with all that's been going on here, including right here. So. You're hearing this, right? They won't know who the alcohol's from. I'm saying all sorts of ways they could verify that I didn't drink any alcohol. They being law enforcement, he says, my stepfather, who used to work for the FBI, he says, I don't think they're that smart. Okay? And this is with all the modern day technology everybody has and everything too. And he's a doctor. He is a medical doctor, psychiatrist. Unlike psychologists, they are medical doctors first, and then they go and they specialize in psychiatry. So there are also obviously medical ways that can be tested. Surely he's fully aware, like check my blood test, do a blood test, whatever. Getting all this terrorization tactics to frame me up, to totally manufacture I might have been drinking. Oh, and you know, there's just no way to prove that I wasn't, because, oh, wow, you know, the police aren't that smart. They can't even check, right? Really? So anyway, I'm just going to get really too agitated if I review this or think on this some more. This was a longer, drawn out, more of this. And actually in this file, there was reference to and they knew about it. It was clear they knew about it. Another time where there was people that I strongly suspect were an example of the psychological operations group people that were illegally, but all the same in practice, allowed to fraudulently present themselves as police. And there was a supposed police blockade, right? So if it wasn't a real police blockade, it was at least a pseudo police blockade. It was set up to prevent me from driving to the airport to get away from all of these abuses and frame up attempts and everything to enslave and traffic me. So totally unlawful, but with people who are at least allowed to dress as law enforcement and set up a police or pseudo police blockade leading onto the highway. to prevent an innocent woman over whom nobody had any legal authority to stop for any legal, lawful, legitimate reason to prevent me from driving to the airport. How scary is that? It needs to be addressed. So, because there was a time that the person, believe it not known to be my mother, made a play for guardianship over me. It was short-lived, but she did do that. But this was, and it was actually very close to all of this. But at this time, there was not even the temporary multi-county so-called emergency of, let's give the Dr. Lockman, authority over this woman and then find out afterwards if it's legitimate or not. That's what they did. And then I had a lawyer talk to the probate judge, who was not even a lawyer. I found out, first when I heard this, I thought people were kidding, but he was like, literally went to some school to be able to be certified as a judge without ever having been a lawyer. So he was deferring to the lawyer for my mother, etc., that was just seeking to frame me up as not competent so that they could, again, abduct me and get control over me coercively under color of authority. And but anyway, when I got a lawyer that spoke with the judge and was like, hey, like, what the hell, basically, he said it probably more diplomatically than that, and the judge said, okay, he's willing to undo all of that they had done entirely, because they dismissed it very quickly without ever giving me a chance to defend myself. But I didn't appreciate that they had this record, that they had gone through that process, and they should not even have done that, and they never even gave me proper notice. And so then the judge said, okay, he would undo it, but he doesn't know how. And then I found out there's no process in place for them to undo that. There's processes to undo, expunge and seal criminal records, and some other kinds of records potentially, but apparently not a process to undo probate court proceeding. So I still need, to get, right now, these people, their tactic has been, they're always escalating, so you can't even address the previous stuff they've done, especially since they keep you from getting help. And as just a civilian, you can't, be expected to get anything undone that they've been doing to you, including all these corrupt, people with these titles and all, government psychiatrists, etc. So I need to get that addressed. It'll probably have to be something done by, like, the governor's office of Alabama, or the White House or something, literally. I mean, it's not my choice to always have to, be looking for these higher offices or so, but this is what these people have necessitated. Because apparently there's no process in place for the same probate court that just, rubber stamped everything my mother's party asked for to undo what they did. So that is something I'm very upset about, because my whole life they've been wrongfully trying to frame me, and I did not do anything to go along with that or facilitate that, or that they should have been allowed to even pretend that I did. And this was an instance of them just being rubber stamped anyway, regardless of all the facts, and regardless of all lawful procedures. I literally never had the chance to appear anywhere, to say anything in my defense, to have any attorney, nothing. So to even be served, I just knew about it because they were, bragging to me about it. And my mother was also, like, she was enjoying the humiliation or potential humiliation aspect. Now you're a laughingstock, this, that, blah, 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 blah. I have recordings of that, but I have to sort through. So it helped me to know, this is not about a woman who's concerned, that really legitimately thinks that in any way I should have had that done to me, and that she was trying to do it to be protective. This was more of the narcissistic, sociopathic, human enslavement and trafficking activities. That they don't have any sense of, rights for their, quote, property. They feel entitled to do all the things they want to do against you. They don't give a damn how hard you've worked your whole life, the fact that you're a good person, the fact you've never broken any laws, the fact that you are not the crazy person. They want anything they can manufacture against you to make you not be able to have your life. No life except to be there slave and trafficking victim for their network lifelong. They want to set it up so that even after, as a network, even after these initial handlers, these parents are dead, you're still dealing with these damn people. Because my person believed my father was involved, first stepfather, this was the second stepfather. As far as I know, they're all dead. The only person I really don't know what happened to of those is the first stepfather. I mean, he told me outright, your father sold you to me. So I realized they have this process in place, you know, so they literally sell, you know, the women and children behind the back of the women and children. So, I mean, at that point, for whatever reason, that wasn't so much behind my back, but it was after it was done, right? Your father sold you to me. That was what the first stepfather came right out and told me. And I didn't understand really what that meant at the time. I still don't entirely understand what it means, but I've been learning that one, I don't know if he's still alive, because apparently he did another sale to that and the second stepfather. So by the time I was realizing things were going on, I needed to get evidence. I was getting evidence of the second stepfather and the mother. The first stepfather, I don't think he's had, or pseudo stepfather, he was put in place as a handler, obviously. I don't think he's had anything to do with me for years. So, and he was not young, so I suspect he's dead by now. But I'm really just not sure. I mean, but I would be surprised if he has still anything to do with what's, you know, this network's activities against me. So it's very, you know, but this is what people are dealing with. They were just the tip of the iceberg. It's beyond an abusive household. And I've learned that that's part of the mode of operation. And that's why they're being, you know, they've been so protected. And that's why when we try to go and get help, because these are the highly shielded, you know, government placed human enslavement and trafficking networked people. So, you know, we get the treatment that we get trying to get help, get more endangered in some ways. Because then in addition to being already, you know, poisoned, and, you know, what have you, and these people seeking to frame us illegitimately, try to go and get a police report filed, and they seek to, you know, speed up the process for these human enslavement and trafficking network that they're shielding that way, and working with that way. So let's see. I got a message that my battery is really low, and maybe that's a good number. I remember hearing that a lot of times people have an attention span for like 3 to 5 main files or so at a time. So that was 3, I believe. Let's see, 1, 2, 3. No, that was 4. So no, it was 5. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, there was the one. No, it was 4. Okay, it was these first 4 of the YouTube list. These are 3 on the Facebook list. Attempted setups continuing in Alabama, trauma deliberately inflicted and perception attemptedly undermined since childhood. Dr. Lockman admits feeling coerced to press false allegations against me. Setups need to stop to let me relocate and live peacefully. So yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4. I think I'll stop here. And I just want to thank you, and I hope to have good news for you. I guess, you know, I made the point. I wasn't as zip-zap as I pictured I might have been. In theory, I was planning to like, go through, check. But, you know, this is, you know, as I don't like to revisit these files. And then as I'm coming into them, it reminds me of so many, you know, connected matters to do with all of this. But yeah, so I'm going to close this out and maybe just mention, in case the worst case scenario and these people do, you know, abduct me under color of authority when I go try to get help again, I'll reference which these files were on Facebook. This one is the one with the patient advocate. He said he heard my mother and stepfather talking, Dr. Lockman and Dr. McIntyre talking about investigator who's supposed to be like the lead human trafficking network investigator out of the DA's office in Manhattan. But so either, hopefully that was like not actually who he thinks it was, and it was like another imposter kind of person or something, but it might have been who he thinks it was. That needs to be checked, and obviously not by me. I'm obviously not the one who can safely check that and properly check that. But he's went on video and said he sounded very and looked very nervous about it. So at least he definitely seems to believe that that's what's gone on, that my stepfather was conspiring with that district attorney's office investigator who's supposed to be investigating human trafficking, that I'd asked for help. He was, in fact, who that person believed to be him by the patient advocate was talking with my stepfather behind my back, planning exactly what I've been talking about, that, well, I can get us back to New York from Alabama, because everybody knew I didn't want to be stuck in Alabama. I wanted to be making my life in New York, where I worked hard to graduate from undergraduate university with highest honors at NYU, and then youngest in my MBA class from NYU. But they've always played games to not let me compete for legitimate employment, to force me to have to be stuck in the house and in the office of Doctors McIntyre and Lockman. Now it's Dr. Lockman, without Dr. McIntyre died. So, but that they were actually talking with that investigator in New York, that, she won't be able to settle in New York because we'll frame her up and we'll just, have her institutionalized, what have you. So it's really, really sickening. But that's the file. It's starting from 840. You could hear that. And then let me see if I can at least maybe show visually where you'd find the files. Let's see here. Yeah. Oh, that's a little hard to... I think I had asked for it to go to desktop. So now it's kind of like an in-between desktop and mobile view. But anyway, okay, let me scroll back real quick, and we'll double check how you could pull it up relatively easily. It's this file here.
It's now 10 o'clock Central Standard Time in the evening, Thursday, January 11th, 2018.
Okay, from Thursday, January 11th, 2018. So it was sitting with the patient advocate here. You can see he looks,
was given to me
nervous. Let's see, 840. I'm not going to try to play the whole thing in this file, but maybe it wouldn't hurt to get orient you the very beginning of that here. Oh, wait, sorry, 840.
Wait, that wasn't very easy to hear, spoken about by
Chuck and Liz.
Okay, so you're talking about Dr. Charles Michael McIntyre?
Yes.
And
Elizabeth.
Dr. Marilyn Elizabeth Lockman?
Yes.
Okay.
At their office. And they said that they got a call from an assistant district attorney, or I believe that would be. No. Well, it was somebody who was a head investigator.
Okay, hold on. Those are different. I don't want to tell you which one I understand it to be, but I'm going to clarify for you what the different job titles are. Assistant district attorney is an attorney.
Okay.
And basically all the attorneys there, except for the head district attorney, who's generally like a very political office, he doesn't necessarily go into court for the cases directly so much, but the assistant district attorneys are the ones that you'll see going into court prosecuting cases, and then there's investigators that investigate the criminal complaint.
This would be an investigator.
Okay.
Then. And I learned from Dr. McIntyre or Dr. Lockman that these people, the investigator at New York, said that he was getting so much incoming, not faxes, but emails about things that were going on in Sahar's life, that basically they were blocking up, the messages were blocking up the machines, and they couldn't, there's so many of them that they couldn't even get their mail through, or if they had an emergency, they couldn't read them.
Okay, hold on. Do you know if he was referring to emails only from me, or if he might have been referring to getting contacted by any other parties. Like
he was talking to Dr. McIntyre or Dr. Lockman at this time. And
Oh,
made
wow.
a specific call.
I actually didn't remember that. I know that the person believed but not known to be my mother, Dr. Marilyn Elizabeth Lockman, short for Lachman Singh, and she lies about that. Another telltale sign about, you know, the lies and the deceit involved and what they're, you know, that they're hiding what they're really up to. Because her great grandfather is Dr. Joseph P. Lachman Singh, and she goes around saying, "Oh, her last name is pronounced Lockman," and I can't even say it right, but she says it like Lockman. She's like kind of a special CH sound, and she's saying it's like a Jewish pronunciation, it's a Jewish name, this and that. And so just totally, you know, throwing people off track of her identity. And then I realized that these are related to Nazi continuation of literally Nazi research. So that might be part of the reason, and part of their, you know, they have these twisted mentalities, like these insider jokes. So maybe they think it's funny that they go and lie and say she's like has Jewish heritage that she doesn't have or something, when they're doing these, you know, perpetuating these Nazi, you know, non-consensual human experimentation and other human trafficking on people or so. I'm not sure. But she'd done a particularly excellent job as the women. I know other targets have observed this. Frankly, the women tend to do more so as far as the deception factor and the keeping secrets factor. As far as like the men tend to come out and brag, you know, oh, well, you know, I've been contracted by the FBI, you know, whatever. And the women, you know, I've heard enough to know my mother also has security clearance, intelligence clearance, and so forth, but I don't know which agency or agencies that's from. She has been much more you know, secretive than my stepfather was about that. And then she also, you know, managed to fool me the most that she might just be like, you know, coerced. And then I've come to realize, you know, that's why one of those files we went over was titled Dr. Lockman Admits Feeling Coerced to Press False Allegations Against Me. I've realized, oh, she's, you know, she's been enjoying this, and she's very much more involved than I ever would have imagined. And so I had actually forgotten that it might actually, you know, be she herself might have been in touch with this person that the patient advocate, this was the patient advocate at their office, you know, was referring to in these plans to get me falsely diagnosed so they could disappear me from having to be concerned about me as a witness to their human enslavement and trafficking activities by having me institutionalized under false psychiatric diagnosis. So anyway, so we'll continue there.
Okay, but what I'm saying is, was he complaining about messages that I was sending?
Yes.
Because a reason I ask this is I generally a reason I'm asking for the distinction is I basically was making the point to not, you know, to try to be, even though I get harassed on a regular, you know, daily plus basis, multiple times a day, I was trying, like every time I go out, going to someplace, coming back from someplace, I experience organized stalking by vehicle when I'm driving, etc. But I was trying to just do a weekly update once a week, you know, for the weekend, end of the week usually, to send to the government officials, etc. So
this was earlier in the time that you had gone to New York.
Okay, but what I'm saying,
it was just after you'd gotten there for a few weeks, I think, that the calls were coming in. And
okay, but
they were coming in every night, is what they explained.
So this is my question.
They're inaccurate then.
Well, not necessarily. What I'm trying to make sure of, to understand, could he have been referring, from what you understood, what you heard, could he possibly have been referring to getting calls from other people, for example,
No.
U.S. Senate Judiciary Committee people or something
No.
about me, or the New York Governor's Office?
No, these were years.
He's
daily basis.
He's complaining about claiming that he's getting daily emails from me.
Yeah.
Okay.
And at night, and in the morning they come in and they can't read their mail.
Wow. Okay. Okay.
So that's what he said, and he said he'd have to have you put away or something, and Chuck said he would talk to you about it. And after that, I heard no more about it. And you didn't seem to have any problem with it. And I think it went away as far as...
No one ever told me anything like this. Not Mr. Wigdor, the investigator, nor my stepfather, nor my mother. Nor anybody else.
No.
Previous to me hearing this right now from you
Well,
tonight.
it just all of a sudden disappeared. So I figured, you know, somebody had found a solution, or, you know, like you were going once a week, and or they couldn't prove what they were saying, or I don't know what went on between the three of them. But I know that they were, the man was threatening, and then your parents were saying something else to him, you know, that they'd have it stopped. But I think it stopped on its own if it ever began.
Do you know if they indicated how they would have me stop sending any emails to Mr. Wigdor, that Mr. Wigdor
Wigdor
given me
said
his
that
email
he
address?
probably would have to have you confined in a hospital.
I actually met with that investigator in the last year, and he was like, oh, you know, I'm missing your emails because you used to send me, you know, a weekly email. You used to include me in the weekly updates you're sending to government representatives, and now I haven't seen any for some time. And he was, you know, supposedly missing these weekly updates, and he wanted to be back in the loop, you know? So, and, you know, really, when I've spoken with him live, previously over the phone, and then when I met with him in person, toward the end of last year, 2019, he was quite charming, and I could easily believe that he actually might really be interested in helping to investigate as he's supposed to do. But of course, with everything that's been going on, I can't trust that, and it's not safe for me to try on my own. So I need somebody that, you know, I've not been warned that somebody believed to be him, you know, so either really him or an imposter or something, or a trickery on the part of my parents or what have you, to, you know, get, you know, because they probably could foresee that he was going to warn me. That was the patient advocate at the office, and we worked together to try to help some of the people that were actually, a lot of what times we were doing is to help people that were getting improperly targeted by Child Protective Services people, people misusing psychiatry and what have you to make a grab for kids for cash, basically. So this is, you know, it's been part of this long evolutionary process of realizing on the larger scale what's going on, you know, and the targeting against me started when I was very young, and it might probably have started with that same kind of office, but I don't know what I don't, you know that much about them or what have you, but there were people like that involved in Ontario, Canada when I was a child. And the people believed but not known to be my biological parents were going through custody battle. There's no other, I literally, everybody that referenced it, that knew anything that went on, they always referred to it as a, you know, a battle, part of a war. It was very nasty, the kinds of things that were going on. And they both had corrupt government people in their faction, you know, on their side, trying to get win the quote custody of me. And like I said, they were very negligent, you know, as far as they really didn't want to, neither of them wanted to bother with me. They were not interested in parenting me, and mostly they were not interested in abusing me either in private, but they were theatrically abusive in front of the military intelligence people that came over, right, periodically to, I guess, check that they were doing what they were supposed to be doing, to groom me, to help get me traumatized to where I could be brainwashed and programmed as a, you know, another enslaved puppet and all for this network. But I did not understand that at this time. So I guess we're coming full circle now, for better and or worse. And anyway, let's see, if God willing, the battery will hold up. And I think because I didn't write down which files these reference, I should probably go over the next 2 from Facebook, and then I'll close this out. Because, like I said, I don't want to be morbid, but in the worst case scenario, then if somebody needs to, they can use this list to check the other files for evidence and understand, you know, fundamentally what's going on. Like I said, I have much more evidence even than where this came from. But oh no, it's all posted. It's just I've not been able to, you know, organize it properly because they've been having me re-poisoned with neurotoxic inhalants multiple times a day now. And I'm sure, you know, as part of all their activities, they want to still do what they've been wanting to do. And they also don't want me to organize the evidence and get any consequences against them, that they might have to actually face any consequences. So apparently they think that they might have to face some consequences they don't want to face, or else they're just so concerned about their, you know, these kinds of tactics that they're so systematically engaged in becoming more widely known. But they've been going to these lengths to shut me up. So let's see, 1019. Oh yes, that was the file. I just wanted to show that, you know, they're systematically preventing me from normal rights and all, no matter what I do. So they rather enjoyed telling me that I could not have prepaid legal services either. I signed up for it. There's no legitimate reason for me not to have it. But they received communication from a third party to which I'm not privy, and so too bad for me. That's basically what they said. So they rescinded my membership that I'd paid for, that they'd accepted and all. And that's after whoever, if it was really the lawyer, or if she was, you know, like pretending to be a lawyer that I got routed to on the phone calling for legal assistance through the program. They got the information. Apparently they were improperly seeking then, really just to get information from me about what kind of evidence I have and what I'm looking for help with. And then, you know, they played this game about, your prepaid legal services membership that you paid for, that you did not do anything wrong to get rescinded. We got third-party communication that caused us to rescind it, and you're not privy to that. So let's see, that's from 1019. That's the file reference from 1019. So let's see here. 1019.
I just recently got signed up again. Like I said, I didn't really know it was an again, and that has going to have to be addressed. It's a whole other mess right there. But in the meanwhile, I need to speak with this lawyer. I have people trying to abduct me. I photographed that this was happening and everything. And the people are having a field day pulling crap like this, just getting my stuff disconnected and stuff for no good reason.
Okay. Can you verify your date of birth?
Yeah.
Okay. I see that your membership, the company took the option of rescinding the membership. So the membership is canceled, and the payment was refunded back to your card.
Okay, who would rescind the membership and why?
Okay. So let me get you
These things can't be just getting done. No, these people are having a field day. Listen, I have never done anything wrong. I don't deserve for people to be just allowed to have a free-for-all because they include corrupt people flashing badges that are pedophiles, bothering me since I was a child, that are now, they get my membership rescinded for no reason. That cannot be disallowed. Who has the authority to really look into this and make this stop?
Okay, give me 1 minute. Let me get you transferred over, okay? Who am I speaking with, Sahar?
Yes, this is Sahara.
Hi, my name is Cheryl. I'm one of the managers in member services. How is it I can help you today?
I have no idea why my membership would be rescinded and my account canceled. And it would be, except that legitimately, it would be part of the pattern of a human trafficking network abusing computer hackers that I've been experiencing, was what I was calling the lawyer about when I found out all of a sudden, oh, your membership's been canceled. Okay, and to be honest with you, we don't have a whole bunch of information. Have you received the letter that was mailed out to you yet? No, I had told them that I'm not at a long-term place right now. I'm trying to work that out. So I was at an inn, and I'm not there now. I'm at a hotel, and I'm actually at a critical juncture trying to get a long-term place, which these people don't want me to do. It's a human trafficking network that engages in pedophilia that has been abusing me since I was a child. And I've been reporting on that in my own situation and other people's situation. And but I paid my bill and everything. I made sure everything is fine. I've been in New York for quite some time. I paid my taxes to New York, and I'm trying to work out my housing, but they just went and they got my Airbnb account, so I can't log into it. And I find out that I can't, I don't have my membership, and nobody's telling me any reason why. I've been getting abused. I don't go around abusing anybody else. I've had all sorts of crimes, organized crimes committed against me. I've never committed a single crime. Why is all this being allowed to be done to me? I need somebody with the authority to see what's happening and fix this. Okay. The only thing that I'm able to do is to read the letter that was sent to you that you didn't receive. Now, if you are at a temporary place that we can resend this letter, I can see that that's done. Or if you have access to email, I can see if we can email you a copy of it. But this is all the information we have that we're able to do. I have email. I mean, I'm here. I'm scheduled to be at the location I'm at now until basically almost 2 weeks. So potentially I could receive mail here, but I don't know if that's potentially an issue that people can try to make that look like something it's not. 'Cause I'm always clear with them. If I'm at an inn or a hotel or something, that's where I'm at. So, I mean, these people have been having a field day, causing me to not be able to have a long-term residence, and then they'll try to say, try to make it out like I misrepresent myself or something. So I never say that a short-term residence is a long-term residence. So to avoid any of that kind of issue, maybe just send my email is midlandmountain@yahoo.com. Okay, yeah, I can have a copy emailed to you. They should be able to do that. But in the meanwhile, I can read what it says to you. Okay. Since you didn't receive it ahead of time. And it just says, Dear Sahara, based on the circumstances and information we have, Legal Shield will not be able to continue to provide contractual benefits and services under your membership. By means of this letter, we are informing you that we are rescinding your membership contract with Legal Shield. We are refunding all your payments back to your reinstatement date. And that looks like that was refunded to your credit card that we charged on April 15th for an amount of $98.85. So you should see that credit on your account. But this would be all the information we have available that we can share with you. Okay.
So, and the person that helped me to get this, somebody I went to business school with, and he's a nice person. It's not his fault, this stuff. So he is an affiliate for Legal Shield, and he was telling me, I'm sure he was telling other people he went to school with, like, oh, if you want this, sign up for the prepaid legal services. I said, I have a vague recollection that I think I did that before, and they just played dead and everything, and didn't help me when I was in Colorado. I left there Christmas Day 2006, and friends were very concerned for my safety because the organized predation had gotten very blatant there. Dr. John Anthony Sabarbaro was obviously involved. I've gone into more detail in files, including the publicly uploaded written testimony to the United States Senate Judiciary Committee regarding the connected epidemic of sexual assaults on campus. He's been tied, publicly documented by independent, separate parties, not just by me, to have been involved with non-consensual human experimentation, with organized crime network, the U.S. Senate Appropriations Committee, what have you. So U.S. Army Medical Reserve Corps or something. I don't know if I'm getting all the names in the right order, but like, so a doctor through there. So, you know, and involved with the polyheme artificial blood experiment. I connected with Department of Defense contractor Northfield Laboratories. You know, this man, you know, and I had no reason to even know he existed, except that he kept interfering with my health care and what have you, and talking with people inappropriately and unlawfully behind my back to do everything to obstruct me from getting proper health care, etc. So, you know, and we can see what was going on there with the, you know, they do the same thing with, you know, to prevent you from getting legal services, to prevent you from being able to file a police report, from prevent you from being able to get proper health care. And worse than that, you know, they poison you, you can't get proper health care, and they'll try to you know, use the opportunity for you seeking health care if you know, go into the police or you go into the hospital to, you know, oh, well, we can help you by taking you straight to the mental hospital, you know? So, anyway, yeah, so the person I went to school with, you know, he told me about prepaid legal services. It had a new name or something maybe by then, because I didn't really recognize the name. And I said, you know, I had this vague recollection that, you know, they basically did this kind of thing to me, as what they ended up doing here back when I was in Colorado. My friends had said, you know, try going back to Canada. So when I went back to Canada, they followed me. They even referred back to Colorado. Some of the files, you can hear them. They even referred to specifically Englewood, Colorado, where my primary care medical clinic was, and claimed that they lost all my medical records, except for the, effectively all of them, right? Was it to make it look a little bit better or sound a little bit better. They then had like some kind of records in my file, but it was really just the records that were forwarded to them by my physical therapy clinic. So no records really out of that primary care clinic, medical clinic, right? So, and I definitely heard that Dr. Sabarbro was communicating improperly with them about me and what have you as well. And he apparently had my, the primary care physician that I initially had there that was kind and was concerned for my health, and was insisting I needed MRI imaging of my spine, because this organized predatory network set me up and deliberately caused me the severe spine injuries. I was suspicious of that at that time, but I didn't know it. And then part of what confirmed that, more things also happened since then, but was Dr. Sabarbro's response. He kept refusing for me to be able to get the approve me for the MRI imaging. She kept insisting I needed, etc. So again, he was trying to prevent me from getting you know, documentation of the damages, the harms, and all that this network was doing to me. So, and then my friends were like, you know, try going back to Canada. Well, I tried going back to Canada, and I was followed there in no time at all. Literally, they probably were on the plane with me, because certainly within 3 days, it was very obvious that they were still stalking, and they were making reference to some things, including they were concerned that I had complained to the Canadian consulate in Denver, Colorado. There's a Canadian consulate's office, and what have you. So it was during that surge, the one from 2006 through 2007 into 2008, that there was a contract on my life by one of the doctors involved. So where they said Dr. 5 needed someone killed, but I don't know which of these doctors, you know, is Dr. 5. So let's see, this last one here of the Facebook ones, 9 seconds in. Oh yeah, just so you know, I mean, I don't think anybody by now thinks that I'm actually imagining that these targeting activities are happening, these organized criminal activities targeting me, but like I said, I'm most acutely concerned right now about these poisonings. And so what's happened, let's see if I can find that very quickly. Yeah, here.
It's 1:12 p.m. June 19th, 2020. I apologize.
Somebody at the hotel I'm at currently, I'm still staying here because, you know, it's dangerous to have to move and move and move, and nobody, you know, you haven't had a chance to make any friends or, you know, other contacts, and for people to know that you're there, you know, hopefully at least not illegitimate people, and better yet, legitimate people, etc. So I try not to let them, you know, just have me like, you know, in a panic moving like every day or something. So, so I plan to be here until September 1st. And I'm hoping again, you know, I'll try again for a long-term contract for September 1st, but I don't see the point even in trying for it unless in between, you know, I get legitimate government intervention where they're going to at least be starting a formal process that they have to look into these organized criminal activities. And so somebody's plural, have already been physically here at this current location, at this hotel I'm at now, and we're talking about actually the ventilation, and not in a normal, legitimate kind of way. So they had badly dosed up right in front of my door. It's probably a tactic like what they've done other times, where they actually, on one occasion, a woman admitted, and she was not someone I had ever had any interaction with, so obviously was assigned. And the police were called, and she admitted that she said a pair of men from the FBI said she had to do that to drive her out of the building, her being me. And that was she had chemically assaulted me, emptied a can of chemical spray under the door into my apartment. Actually, the same place where I have the long-term contract now, but they also set that up so that I'm not able to breathe safely in there. They were trying to frame me and gaslight me and frame me as just crazy for thinking so. Also, you know, because I got very sick very fast, 3 nights of sleeping there in August. Unfortunately, you know, they deceived me and defrauded me, and I paid a year in advance from middle of August last year to middle of August this year. So that's another reason I'm on more of a time crunch now to try to get some legitimate intervention so they can investigate, you know, while I still have a key for that place. It's just a few more weeks now. And they need, you know, but I already got a private mold inspector, and they're the ones who told me that they've got the laboratory reports, everything sent, and they said to let me know that they have what they call 2 zero tolerance category molds for humans. Like, humans are not expected to have any tolerance at all for these things. It's not safe in even small quantities. And they had significant quantities of at least 2 of those types. One was the what's commonly called black mold, and another one, oh, I forgot. I keep forgetting what that other one is called. It's not as commonly heard, but it's in the laboratory report. And then there was another type of hazardous mold as well, but it was not like the other 2, which is zero tolerance, both zero tolerance categories. And there's probably other poisons in there too, because now I've realized, you know, places like where I'm at right now, that I don't see any sign, you know, of mold in it's relatively modern places versus that apartment building that's relatively old. I'm not really suspecting mold, but clearly, you know, things have been done to poison my breathing environment to still affect me with neurotoxins through the air I breathe. And it's been very deliberate. It's not just like happenstance. And they've been doing that deliberately since my first of 3 trips to Albany in October 2018, so somewhat over a year and a half now. And so it causes me, you know, you might hear it, it's not that bad right now, but it's caused me some shortness of breath and so forth, some respiratory distress, what have you, which helps to show their total lack of, you know, any kind of self-regulation or anything, because even at this current time of global pandemic concerns of a respiratory, potentially lethal situation with the pandemic with regard to coronavirus, they're still targeting me in this way through the air that I breathe, and of course it would affect to some extent other people just around, you know. So very unsafe, you know, in a hotel, any hotel or anywhere, you know, apartment, what have you, where I'm at. And so there was a woman next door, and she had a son that had a breathing problem. I want to say it was asthma. And so she was she and I were talking about it. We ran into each other in the hallway, and I was asking her if she knew where that was coming from. And she thought maybe it was coming from my room, because it was dosed up particularly badly right outside my room. And I wanted her to know, you know, for sure that it's not like something that I'm generating from inside my room. So I actually let her into my room I invited her into my room briefly just so she could, verify. And she said, oh yeah, it smells really nice in here. It's obviously not coming from in here. And it wasn't with any kind of, I wouldn't, especially now, be using any kind of, like air freshener spray or anything like that. It's just, I never smoked, done drugs, drank alcohol, what have you, except literally I sipped 3 types of wine at a wine tasting at a scholars event in Spain one year when I was in university, and what have you. But anyway, so yeah, and so I was very concerned, and we were talking about that, and she was concerned also. I think it's a reason she moved shortly after that, because she was a nice neighbor, her and her significant other and her son, and but she's like, oh yeah, she can't have that going on with her son's breathing difficulties especially, and all. And so while we were talking about that, I think it was an example of the unlawful surveillance through my equipment, right? So because I was recording the interviewing of her about the matter, and because I keep thinking positively, I'm gathering evidence, since I can't get a police officer to do their job and go talk with witnesses, gather evidence, what have you. I've ended up having to learn to do that as best as possible, and I've been doing that. And for safety, I've been posting it publicly, right? Mutual safety, because this is not just something that affects me, and I found out it's also it's a tactic on an internationally done by this international network of human enslavement and trafficking parties that are highly shielded. And but when I played back the interview, then I heard I would have to say it would be in the background, because neither she nor I heard this going on live, and it doesn't make sense that they would say it so that we could hear it, meaning for us to hear it. So I think it's not the only time it's happened, but I think it was an example of when they didn't, like, they were listening in unlawfully through my phone or so that I had on me, and that was recording the interview with. And they normally have something set or blocked so that I don't hear what's going on their end while they're eavesdropping what's going on my end. But this time, for whatever reason, they made a mistake or something, neglected something. It was unblocked, maybe because they were talking to each other also through their devices while they were unlawfully listening into mine. And so that's when these voices of this man and woman were heard in playback that were not heard live. And it sounded like they were discussing the poisoning of our breathing environment. So that's most interesting, and definitely legitimate law enforcement would be really helpful and should be done for them to investigate that. So let's see here.
June 19th, 2020. It's now 2.
Yeah. See, it's very fast, but that's very significant. I would feel much more at ease to be able to find some other explanation to dismiss that. But, and I've gone over it with some smart friends who are, very rational, and also would, they would be the first to tell me, oh yeah, maybe it was just such and so or whatever. But that's, we were all coming to the conclusion that, what are the statistical odds that wasn't what was happening, that it was the organized predators, members of the organized predatory network that was doing exactly that, what it sounds like, listening in unlawfully to me talking with the person who was then my neighbor in this hotel about our concerns about them having dosed up especially heavily right outside my door, which was also the next nearest door was their door. And, she had her poor, I want to say asthmatic, but I know I need to be, meticulous about accuracy. So she had a son with some kind of respiratory distress concerns. I think it was asthma, but I'd have to double check the interview notes and all. And so then there they are talking in the background. The way that they assess the ABVs, and he says airway, breathing, circulation, because he apparently thought she said ABCs. The he and she here being apparently members of the Organized Predators Network, from the sounds of it, that were talking with each other and about, something related to what they were eavesdropping me and the then neighbor talking about our concerns about having had the air poisoned right outside my door, which was also very close to being right outside their door, and of course seeps into our breathing environments in our rooms.
June 19th,
Yeah.
2020. It's now 2:36.
So, okay, so I'm going to close it out here, and thank you. You're the reason I'm getting a chance to have them ease up on the poisoning of my breathing environment somewhat, so that I'm recovering, and you're the reason I've not been disappeared. It's the public. I would like to be able, hopefully one day, to thank some legitimate law enforcement person or so, but presently I don't have one to thank. It's the public. You're the ones I have to thank, and my friends that are following and all, and ready to, go and insist that the New York City Public Advocate, for example, does what they say that they would be doing, to help New Yorkers receive the services to which we're legally entitled and so forth, right? So, because there's some place I've also been to, they were nice to me, but they called the police and said, she's needing help to file a police report because there's an issue, nobody's filing a report, and so the police just blew them off. And then I got an email from the public advocate's office. They tried, the police didn't follow up, and the person who was assigned to be my liaison from the New York City Public Advocate's office, that's Jamani Williams' office, got promoted out of that position, so he doesn't do that liaising anymore, and they've not yet assigned me someone to replace him, the last I know. I'm going to check again now this coming week. This reminds me to check again, because I've asked them, I called them and I asked them, and they were going to get back to me. Now I know with all the interference with my communications, I'm going to have to get back to them. But this is, you can see what's been going on fundamentally. And like I said, plenty more files. This is a very, very distressing and situation. I never would have imagined that somebody who's nearly 50 years old, that's always been a goody two-shoes, never committed any crime, not even come close. It's not like I've kind of traipsed the edge or something like that. I mean, I was such a nerd, and not just in school. I'm not tempted to do the types of things that would legitimately get somebody into trouble with the law or what have you. And I've had to spend years now dedicating so much time to not being framed, including by people in positions who are supposed to actually help me against this human trafficking network, finding that I have no place to turn to. So then I was able to save up a year's rent. It was extra hard and under all the circumstances, and I kept wanting, just the one chance for 1 year to be able to focus on my employment search and settling and housing and what have you, and getting my health back. And these people just took that money and they kept after me to make sure I can't even properly have the opportunity to speak with my career counselor, to apply for jobs, to settle into housing, right, anywhere I can breathe safely, not just the long-term apartment, but an Airbnb, any hotel. And it had just become illegal for them to take more than the 1 month in advance rent, but the realtor even lied to me about it. So I'm sure, all that was routed to their people in the first place to make sure it was their realtor, their landlord or front landlord, etc., so that they could set up that situation, just looking to make sure I could never have a chance to be free from them. That's what they're doing. And I'm not a particularly stupid or remiss person, and they've been managing to do all of this to me. So I now have a very much better sense of how they have and keep so many other people enslaved and trafficked, and I want to help with that. This is not something I can forget that I know now, and it bothers me greatly. Not just for my own situation. So that's how it involved with me working so hard for so long now on stop non-consensual experiments in all world citizens. So the aspect that has affected me the most, that I know about, that I've learned the most about because of the involvement of the government contracted behavior modification specialists, believe but not known to be my parents and all, is how they abuse, the psychological operations groups, the mental health system, the child protective services, what have you, and falsely diagnose people as mentally incompetent or worse, and and just take away your freedoms, and also that they can enslave and traffic you amongst themselves. That's part of how they stay highly shielded, right? Because they're keeping you amongst themselves, so they're, as opposed to, somebody, not that well connected and what have you, and that doesn't have all that high shielding, and they take the risk of actually putting you out on the street corner or, something like that, and then sometimes they get caught, right? But these people are in highly shielded positions, and they're keeping you enslaved and trafficked amongst themselves, like what my first stepfather told me: your father sold you to me. So apparently, they do it with children and with women, and well, probably with grown men too, but in ways that I'm not as familiar with as of yet. So, okay, I'm going to close this out, and I hope to have good news for you. Like I said, if I disappear though, somebody please, keep in mind that these are some files that, most of these files are not more than 2 to 3 minutes. I think that first file was a 4-minute file. That was like the longest of at least the most of these here from my video playlist on YouTube, to the attention of the U.S. Senate Judiciary Committee. I should probably show you really quickly how you find that. Is here. It's let's see. This is here's my channel. Okay, it's on YouTube.com. And the channel is CHINYEREDOTCOM, Chenier.com spelled out. That's the avatar, is the dolphin. Same as the avatar on Facebook, the Snowy Oak community page on Facebook. And then when you click on playlist, it's the U.S. Senate Judiciary Committee playlist that has, and I'll probably still add some files to this playlist. And it has these files that are most, at a glance, to where people can see that clearly this is organized criminal targeting of an innocent person. And I've been able to gather the evidence the best as has come right into my face, but it's become clear that this is something they're doing, to people, well beyond, just doing to me. So let me just scroll to the bottom of the list. Oh. Okay. Thank you, and God bless you.